Spinnerbait versus bladed jig. When is the best time to throw both of these baits? I wouldn't say that there's an exact cutoff time where you should be throwing this versus this. But I will say that bladed jigs usually work better in the colder months. That early season, especially around grassy areas, that's when I really like to throw a bladed jig. That's when it really shines. Put a little swim bait on there and just reeling it as slow as you can go, ticking off the grass. It's a real shallow fishing bait. You could also fish it in that mid-depth. And it just has a really tight wiggle to it that fish like, I think, in the colder months. That's not to say that you can't catch them any time of year, because I have. But that's usually when I catch my bigger bass on it, and that's usually when they bite the bladed jig better than a spinnerbait, when that water is below that 60-degree mark. Now, when we get into full springtime fishing, that is when I really like throwing a spinnerbait. A spinnerbait is just awesome for catching big bass in the springtime, and it's one of the rare occasions when I can throw a spinnerbait and it doesn't have to be overcast and windy conditions. That's one of the key times where you want to throw a spinnerbait. But in the springtime, that's when the bass are just gonna bite a spinnerbait no matter what. If it's sunny, cloudy, I think it puts out that vibration that they really like, and they usually will key in on shad during the shad spawn. That's when you really want to have a spinnerbait in your hand, and it really shines during that time period. Another key difference between a bladed jig and a spinnerbait is you have an exposed hook on a bladed jig, and on a spinnerbait you have that arm that is covering that blade, so you can reel it through wood and not grass, but any kind of hard cover, docks, things like that. You can usually get a spinnerbait through there pretty good, whereas a bladed jig will start to roll over and usually get caught up on wood and docks and things like that. You'll get caught up with that more. So I often will switch to a spinnerbait where even if they're biting a bladed jig, if I can't get it in the area where they really are, the spinnerbait is a great alternative. One more key difference. If you notice, a bladed jig has that big blade in the front and it shatters back and forth, and you can really feel it in the rod tip, whereas a spinnerbait, you feel some vibration, but it's not as intense. So when you're fishing muddy water conditions, often a bladed jig works a little bit better just because the fish can pick it up with their lateral line better than a spinnerbait. All in all though, these are both awesome lures that both catch big bass, and I use them all the time. So if you want to see more tips and tricks, make sure to subscribe to the Mystery Tackle Box YouTube channel here. And if you want to check out boxes where you can get boxes sent to your doorstep as low as $14.99 a month, go check out mysterytacklebox.com, and we'll see you on the next video.